back here at Braitman Studio. I'm decided on a peony, I think. Just a pink, actually, what I decided on. People tell me that's a peony. So I'm going to scrub in some red to give it the color I need. And that's red with alizarin crimson with white. And then I've got a hunk of white and wax together, and I'm just going to cover it up. And let that red come through. And that says enough peony for me, except I noticed that they all kind of come out of a base somewhere. So I'll give it structure a little bit. And that's a huge amount of paint, works well. I'm fine with that. I just want to see what's happened. I just gave this lecture on freshness, and that looks fresh, but these areas around the edge look scrubbed. So I want to see the areas I have to modify to make it look light. And I really love this ability to come through and see some of that underpainting. So I'm pulling out some of the paint so I can see some of the stuff that was underneath. And then I'll take a brush to soften so nobody can see what it is that I've done. Oh, and this is cool. I'll actually take the brush and use it like a knife, scoop up the paint, flip it over, pull it across. And then put a little touch in on this side. And the modification of those strokes is a real important part for me, so I just put a hunk of paint down and then made it look like it was more naturally there, but it's really just a hunk of paint. I like what's happening with the vase here. That's that rubber tip tool, and I'm going to block in a dark now to hold everything up. And that was one ugly color, so I'll change it. And I've got a lot of paint in here, but I've got some other material too. I've got a little bit of that kyanite in. I'm not sure where the bottom of that vase is. About here. Round that off. And now while it's all wet like that, I'm going to take some turpentine and drip it. Even before I put any of the other blossoms on, just to see what happens, because I don't know. Usually when there's that much paint, it doesn't move, but I've got a lot of other paint on here, so I just want to see what happens. And in this case, I'm going to be a lot slower, so I'll actually follow a drip down. What I'm trying to do is pull paint out of here and deposit it here. So I'll let that drip liquefy some of that color. Break that edge up and deposit it in another spot. And that's what's giving surface and interest to the painting and helping activate this area so it looks more finished. I don't want to screw up what's happening with that vase. With that leaf. So I'll soften that into the background. And as I've decided that this is going to be lighter, I can start to put some color back here. But I don't want to overdo it. I just want to have a little bit of color. And again, that's for two reasons. One, I want to have something wet to move across the painting. And this is what I'm looking for down here. So I'm pulling paint across that, coming across this area and depositing it in this rougher areas across here. And there's too much viscosity in here. Even if I could get some liquid on there, that's not going to move. That's just going to stay there. So I'm working on this area just to try to get some interest, and then I'll work on this side. I just try to make things relatable to people, so that, if I'm trying to get the idea across of being delicate, then I'll play with the concept of the areas that I've found delicacy, where it really counts. So one of them is like petting a young kitten, like a 3-day-old kitten. That's a whole different application than, you know, feeling a fruit to see if it's fresh. So we want to, when you want to be delicate, you're really thinking about that. And usually we tend to start off real abruptly with our painting, and that gets us into trouble. So recently having grandchildren, I found that, you know, when you're pushing them on the swing, if you start pushing them as hard as you need to get them to get up as high as they want, they'll fall right off that swing. So I want to make sure that we start very slowly, and at the right moment add a little more pressure, and add a little more pressure, and add a little more pressure, so that by the time you're at the end of the painting, things are very aggressive, but you don't start very aggressively. They start just like you would start with your grandchild on a swing. And so those are the metaphors that we're talking about for the most part. They're just trying to get people to envision the process and the feeling that you're having rather than the product you're getting. And usually we enjoy this so much, we try to get to the product far too soon. And so now I'm not happy with this color at all, so what I'm doing is just blocking it in. It looks better already. I'll leave that for a second until I decide what's going to happen.